who would you put as the top to blame for the crash that we had in 2008?
At the direct answer to your question, at the top of the list, and I'll explain, in my opinion, is the Federal Reserve. But I'm going to put shared responsibility for the financial crisis on the parties of the federal government, on the regulators, on the rating agencies, a bit on investors, certainly on bankers, certainly on the government-sponsored enterprises, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and definitely politicians. And it's a very shared responsibility.
No lenders are on your list?
I said bankers.
Okay,
I meant
gotcha.
lenders. I'm sorry.
Originators, gotcha.
Yeah, originate.
Yeah.
And bankers. I think we all made a mistake of varying degrees. But the party that had the best ability to prevent a financial crisis and then fuel the flames was the Fed. And let me tell you what happened. In the early 2000s, they helped cause the whole housing bubble. Because they kept interest rates below the rate of inflation for a period of time. That caused people to go naturally, which they always do, to go out and buy more homes, and in that case, take on more and more debt. And because and that caused these housing prices to go too high in the short run. And I was back at that time telling the chair of the Fed.
Was that Alan Greenspan at the time?
I was with Alan, but at that time it was kind of morphing into Bernanke.
Bernanke, yeah. Ben.
And as a side point, I think Alan Greenspan, I served on the Thrift Advisory Council with him. I think he got it. I think he was a really smart chair of the Fed, understood the capital markets and all that. In my opinion, Ben Bernanke was like putting a scholarly somebody out of academia in charge of something that is very dynamic. He just didn't understand the dynamics of markets as well, in my opinion, of what he should have. So I think the Fed helped inflate the housing market. And then when things needed to be cooled down, they started raising rates too fast, too far, and then that started a downturn. And I started counseling them at the time. I was on a council there and met with them quarterly. I said, there's a problem creating here. I said, I'm going to cut our lending dramatically, which I said we did 74% during those four years leading up to that. But he said, no, we don't see housing as going to be a problem at all. And they basically rose rates, it turned out to be too much, and then did not inject liquidity to stabilize the system. And what we should have had was a normal downturn in housing. It would have been painful for everybody. Yeah, housing prices should have fallen 10%, 15%, whatever. But instead, they let the capital markets totally freeze. And I think they made a fatal mistake, again, in my opinion, of letting Lehman Brothers fail. Because that put total panic into the entire financial system. And by the time that happened...
You said they made a mistake letting Lehman Brothers fail?
In my opinion.
But you're also the guy that wrote the book, Nothing is Too Big to Fail, though. Shouldn't we allow those guys to fail?
I'm saying that just from a practical side, when they let Lehman fail in that circumstance at that time, that caused a downward spiral that cost this country trillions of dollars and millions of people their jobs, and caused housing prices to fall much further, not only housing, but the stock market, housing prices and other things, more than they could have. I'm not saying they shouldn't have found a way to deal with Lehman over a period of time or something, but the way it was handled put a total shock and panic into the system. And they all reacted, in terms of the regulators and, for that matter, Congress and others, in very reactive, haphazard kind of ways that I don't think served our country very well at that time.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.